Grand Rising Soul Fam. So I said I was going to come on during Venus retrograde and share some resources for contemplation, for practicing the pause, for learning about the gene keys and the I Ching and the Tao and human design. So let's do it. We're doing it. We're back for day 3. Day 3 today, we're talking about gene key 25. This is the shadow of constriction. This is the gift of acceptance. This is the divine of universal love. So as we can see with all 64 gene keys, they are all iterations of universal love, from its constriction to where we are restricting it, restraining it, repressing it, to where we are accepting it, to where we are letting it in, to where we are fueled by it, to where it's flowing through us. So today, let's check out the Wisdom Keeper story by Dr. Rosy Aronson. Here's a beautiful imagery here. Don't you just love this little guy? All right, let's see what it has to say. It starts off with a Richard Rudd quote that says, "The path of love is the path of acceptance. In order to accept something about yourself, and especially something uncomfortable, it first must be recognized." My wisdom story. I grew up in a strict household where boys were expected to be strong. Even when my beloved older brother died from an illness, I wasn't allowed to cry. I took all of the pain and vulnerability inside of me and buried it deep within. I married at a young age to a kind, sensitive woman who took care of our home and gave me 2 sons. I provided for my family, but I was emotionally ignorant and constricted. There were times my wife would ask me if I was happy. Not knowing what to say, I'd tell her I was fine. Until the day my firstborn son died. My wife's broken heart flowed like a river, while mine turned to ice. I wouldn't allow his name to be spoken and forced my wife to get rid of anything that reminded me of our son. Then I became obsessed with things. My house, my money, my wife, my child, they were all mine. I forbade my wife and youngest son from leaving the house. If they showed signs of emotional weakness, I became cold and exploded with rage. At times I could barely breathe. I was engulfed by a fear so primal it pervaded every moment of every day. I hated that fear and lashed out at anyone who reminded me of it. I was completely unreachable. It wasn't until I discovered that my wife had kept a picture of our firstborn and saw my son's terror as I raised my hand to strike her that I collapsed onto the floor, shaking like a leaf. Though I didn't deserve it, my wife and son held me until my tears thawed out my heart. My breath deepened. My body gave way to the grief of my entire life. Finally, a love, a lightness, and a softness came over me, my wife, and our son that we had never known. That was many years ago, but it marked the beginning of a blessed and joyous family life filled with love poems, whirling dances, and mystical celebrations. Look into my eyes and you will feel the love that comes from accepting and being accepted in one's darkest wounds. My gift to you. When I look into your eyes, I see innocence and trustworthiness, a deep optimism that remains untouched no matter what has happened in your life. I know from experience just how difficult it can be to experience true acceptance of yourself, of another. Like me, you will be tested in your life, but I am here to reassure you that if you commit yourself to embracing your deepest wounds, no matter how deep and painful they are, you will find that there's no wound in this whole world that you cannot bear or embrace. Worries and grudges will naturally just slip away, and wherever you go, you will know in the depths of your heart that you belong. I come to bathe you in the warmth of unconditional and universal love. You are so worthy. Questions for contemplation, maybe placing a hand on your heart and just listening as I take a beat between each question for you to listen to what's there and answer for yourself. Maybe you save this and you come back to it and you journal about it. What experience from your past have you not yet fully accepted? What wound are you refusing to feel? And how can you give your expression to that wound? to a person, maybe in a poem, artistic creation. Have you ever opened up to your pain and discovered a greater capacity for love and a deeper connection to the world? I love that quote. When I went looking for God, I found myself. When I went looking for myself, I found God. If you can feel that you carry a very big wound, I invite you to seek support from someone, a counselor, a therapist, a spiritual guide, who can hold your hand as you move towards acceptance and liberate your heart. So I'm going to be starting a book club later this month, and we're going to be going over universal love and all the 22 frequencies of universal love, from their constriction to their acceptance, into their ascent into the divine expression. You know, this particular gene key, this was my dad's life's work, and definitely could feel the constriction of when his heart would close, when he didn't want to be vulnerable, when he couldn't feel safe enough to express the big feelings, and so he repressed them until he took his life when he was 55, because it became too much for one person to hold. And so I look at those patterns, I look at where those things have shifted the way that I operate in love and in life. And this is always the invitation to just notice, where does your heart feel closed off? Maybe it's in a certain conversation, maybe it's in a certain environment, maybe it's with certain people. Can you notice in the moment when your heart's beginning to close, when it's feeling the constriction, when it's feeling the burden? And in that moment, while it's happening, can you shift? Can you become the observer? Can you just notice, like clouds going by in the sky? Oh wow, this really hurts. There's big feelings here. This is heavy. Can you simply be with them, not expecting them to change, but offering them universal love? And when we flow, we don't resist, but we actually just sit with the discomfort. 90 seconds later, that discomfort shifts. It alchemizes. That gravity can become levity. That thing that was consuming us is now something that we can witness, that we can hold, and we can blow right away.